So about 5 years ago, I, male and 26, set out to travel the world. Being straight out of college had left me in a bit of debt, ever more desperate for any job I was overqualified for, and generally pretty depressed. I felt isolated and alone in my small town in Washington, and found the only way to get out: travel. My high school buddy suggested I look into woofing and volunteering as a way to travel cheap, and so I did. The way it works is quite simple. You work for around 25 hours a week on some farm for food and housing. The draw is that since the community of cheap-ass travelers is quite big, it's a great way to meet new people, get outside your comfort zone, and just let yourself live and figure out life. Fast forward 8 months, and I am now a seasoned cowshit shoveler. I started out in Washington, Oregon, and went south to California. There I was able to save some money I was paid under the table for some extra work, and was now faced with a new decision. Where do I go in the world next? The excitement of being able to purchase a ticket to almost anywhere got the best of me, and on the advice of my dumbass hippie volunteering partner, I decided to choose at random. I went to a randomizer website and clicked the country button. Georgia. The country of Georgia. To say I didn't know anything about it at all was an understatement, but the fear of the unknown made it exciting and exotic somehow, and so I did it. I purchased a ticket and started browsing for a farm that could host me. There were quite a few options. Most were very remote and didn't even have an internet connection. I messaged every single one because few ever responded. I got a response from one farm at the very top of a mountain. The pictures showed a traditional Georgian stone house with a large garden out in the back, a family with several cheerful children, grandparents having dinner, animals. It seemed very warm and inviting. The description was also written in good English, and the requirements for work seemed very reasonable. I was excited. I flew into Tbilisi, the capital. I followed the directions that they sent to locate the farm, which wasn't an easy task. Few in Georgia speak English. The roads are extremely fucked since few have been maintained since the fall of the Soviet Union, and the country as a whole is just generally pretty poor. It took me around 20 hours of Soviet buses and taxis, weird serpentine roads and paths, to get to the desired blue pin on my map. There was a dirt path leading up to a steep hill, into a national park up in the north part of the country. There was nothing for miles on end, but trees and their silence. As I got up that hill, I saw the house about a half-mile away up an even steeper hill, completely surrounded by the trees. From that vantage point, it seemed almost abandoned, overgrown, brown, dreary. As I walked past the front gate, Jiri, fake name, the apparent owner, approached me. He was a heavy, small, and middle-aged guy, with a very big smile on his face. He shook my hand, and in broken English he started to show me around. He also smelled very much of booze. As he was showing me around, though, I noticed that there wasn't anyone there besides us. I asked about his wife and his kids. He brushed that off with a simple, "Oh, they're away right now." By this point I was creeped out. From browsing it, it was apparent that the farm was in deep decline. Apple trees and crops were dying. The roof of the small barn had caved in. The house itself was full of trash and smelling of old mold. It was obvious that Jiri was going through a rough patch, but I wasn't going to turn around and just leave in the middle of nowhere without a plan, having not slept for 36 hours. It was evening, and after feeding me well and trying as best as he could to hold a conversation in English, Jiri showed me to my room on the second floor, and I went right to sleep. I almost immediately blacked out from the exhaustion and stress, and would have slept for 10 hours if I wasn't awoken by a strange noise in the middle of the night. It sounded like something metallic and heavy was being dragged across the wooden floor. In that sleepy in-between state, I listened to it for a few minutes. I thought nothing of it though, and went back to sleep once it suddenly stopped. In the morning, Jiri, now sober and grumpy, asked me to repair some of the windows and doors in the house, as he himself planned to go and fetch some components in a nearby village. Again, I got this strange creeping feeling down my spine. Something about this situation wasn't right. He didn't maintain eye contact, and he was very evasive. There was no cell reception, no internet. Once he left, I checked around the house to get a general idea of the place. It became apparent right away that the place was hardly ever lived in, like one of those abandoned houses. There was broken furniture, old newspapers, and ripped up photos on the floor, even a shattered mirror. I took my phone and looked through the saved listing again. The photos didn't match either the backyard, the garden, or the walls. Jiri wasn't in any of them. It was a completely different house. Now by this point, I was full-blown panicking. I started to pack my shit and start to leave when I saw a group of 3 men coming up that first hill. There aren't any other paths I could take, so I went around behind the house and rushed down this hill into the forest. After some time, I stopped and decided to listen. I could hear them talking in the house. They were clearly looking for me. Afraid of making any noise, I remained still, completely hidden behind a bush. I don't know how long I waited, but they were very persistent. At some point I heard them leave, so I counted until some large number and proceeded back into the house and path. Once I found it was all clear, I booked it the hell out of there. I never ran that fast in my life, but I was still in the middle of fucking nowhere. No traffic, no public transport. I reached a paved road and started walking in the general direction from where I remember coming. Hours went by. Finally, a car drove by and stopped. Now in a horror movie, this would have been Jiri and his friends out looking for me. But actually, it was just a really nice Russian family that gave me a ride to town. The listing disappeared from the website in a few days after I left, and I never heard from Jiri again since. I've yet to make sense of that experience. I've traveled since and volunteered too. Some people, once they hear this story, laugh and say that the man was coming over with a couple of friends from the village to have a chat over a few beers. Some say he was bound to kidnap and kill me. But I trust my gut feeling. Something definitely was not right. When this took place, I was 22, and I'm only 5'1", so I'm not very intimidating at all. I used to work as a kindergarten teacher, and I would meet parents and other family members all the time. I've made extremely good relationships with all my students, and good impressions on their caretakers as well. One day, about a month late, we got a new transfer student from another school, all the way on the other side of town. Right off the bat, I immediately hated his dad. He was creepy, and would always look at me with that certain look. I brushed it off at first, because I've had male caretakers hit on me before, since I was single at the time. The child was just weird. He would bully kids in the weirdest of ways. He would tell the kids that he wanted to cut off their fingers and eat them like corn dogs. I had a conference with the dad and child after school. He didn't seem angry or uncomfortable like I would assume most parents to be. He had a small smile, as if he was trying to hide away how proud he was. He never took his eyes off my mouth. Honestly, it made me extremely uncomfortable. We finished the conference and agreed he would have no recess for a week. The months went by and I had gotten a boyfriend. We were walking in an outdoor shopping mall on a date when suddenly I felt someone watching us, like I felt eyes burning into the back of my head. We walked inside a furniture store. My boyfriend looked really uncomfortable. "There's a man that's been following us. Let's go," he whispered to me. I don't say anything, but he knew I agreed. We walked out of the store, and he wrapped his arm around my hip. "Miss K," I heard from behind me. I turned, and it was the child and his dad. "We saw you walking, and we thought we'd come say hi." He smirked. He looked at my boyfriend and glared at him. He was 6'3" and had the build of a Viking, but extremely fit. He had the beard and all. He could be considered extremely intimidating, but honestly, he's just one big teddy bear. Let's call him John. "This is John, my husband." I smiled. I lied because I knew if guys hear the word husband, sometimes they back off. The dad seemed very put off by this, like he was going to try and attack him. We awkwardly talked for a moment and drove home. Fast forward 4 years, and John and I really did get married. We moved to a new home. It had many windows and was extremely gorgeous. We had put metal stoppers on the windows because we don't trust people, even though we were in a very nice neighborhood. John and I were spring cleaning one day, when suddenly it felt like someone was watching me. John was next to me washing the top of the fridge. I instinctively looked out the window to barely see a car cross the street. I asked John if he knew who it could be. He said no, and closed the blinds since he was also creeped out by it. That night we were falling asleep on the couch, and in the living room we had 2 extremely large windows that faced the backyard. John had fallen asleep. I was still watching when I heard weird metallic tapping on the glass. I played it off and used my peripherals to look out the window. I caught a glimpse of a shadow passing by, and immediately I woke up John. I told him someone was at the window, and thank God for my great taste in men. He used to be a police officer, and that even now was a firefighter. We keep a crowbar next to the front door and a metal bat behind the couch. He grabbed the bat and handed it over to me. He walked around to the dining room, and under the table was a gun he kept for emergencies. I called 911. I heard John run out the front door and quickly say, "You bastard, I have a gun, and I have no problem shooting you." He yelled it out as loud as he could, since it was 1:15 in the morning and he couldn't get the license plate because of the darkness. We filed the report. The cops who came knew John, and they said they would have someone patrol the house for a week or so. Fast forward again to a month-ish later. We were in bed, and I happened to need to pee at around 3 in the morning. I came out from the bathroom. I felt someone grab a hold of my face. I had no fighting experience, so I didn't know how to defend myself at all. The bathroom door swings in, and there's a towel bar behind it when the door hits it. It's super loud. I slam my arm against the door, and John is a very light sleeper, so I was hoping he would hear it and wake up. I felt really drowsy, and felt the person trying to drag me away. I woke up in the hospital later, and saw John in the chair next to me. I asked him what had happened, and he said he grabbed the metal pipe from under the bed, and had attacked the man. He managed to shatter his jaw, and broke both of his knees. When the man was unconscious, John turned on the lights to see it was the same dad from all those years ago. He called the police, and I found out that I'm apparently mildly allergic to chloroform, and to this day, we have no idea how he got into our house. The front and back doors have glass doors, so we lock the glass and the main doors before going to bed. We never open the windows farther than the guards, and there are screens on the windows as well. There was no sign of forced entry, and no fingerprints anywhere from the guy. Now I'm putting my doctorates to good use and teaching university students. They're much more tolerable, and I feel safer since the university is a few blocks down from the fire station. To that kid, I hope you grow out of the weird sadistic phase. And to the dad, I hope you rot in jail and that we never meet again. Hello. I recently shared a scary experience I had 2 years ago on this sub. It was titled "She Was Holding a Fake Baby." Now I'd like to share another experience. This happened when I was only 13. I lived in a duplex with my dad and brother. It was a 2-bedroom, and I shared a room with my dad, while my older brother had his own separate room. It wasn't uncommon for both of them to have plans at night, so I stayed home to play video games all alone. This particular night was no different. My dad was probably off at some bar, and my brother, well, who knows where he was. I was playing the original Resident Evil on PlayStation, and at around midnight my eyes were getting too heavy, and I finally decided to go to bed. I like to sleep with my bedroom door wide open. Now, not one time in the years that we lived in this place did my dad or brother come home by entering through the back sliding glass door. A couple of times my brother didn't have his key for one reason or another, but he would always knock on my bedroom window and ask me to let him in. My dad always had his key and would always come home right through the front door. On this night, though, I heard that back door slide open. It was an old door, and sliding it open wasn't very easy at all. It was also extremely loud, so I heard it crystal clearly. I lay in bed, wide-eyed with my imagination going crazy. I heard whoever it was walk through the dining room, through the kitchen, and then into the living room. They made no attempt at all to be quiet. After a brief silent pause, I saw someone walk by my bedroom doorway. This scared the living hell out of me, as you can imagine, and my heart throbbed in my chest. Whoever was in my house walked into the bathroom right next to my bedroom and flipped the lights on. The light poured into my own bedroom as I was laying there terrified, completely exposed with the light from the bathroom. Why didn't I shout out for my brother or my dad? Because, like I mentioned earlier, I knew it wasn't them, and there was no one else it could have been that would have made sense. Not a family member, not a friend. I knew it was someone that didn't belong. The person then walked out of the bathroom, left the light on, and walked into my brother's room, making a ton of noise. It sounded like they were searching for something. All I did was lay there in bed, shivering. After a few minutes, the person walked by my bedroom again. I expected that at any moment a stranger would walk into my room. But oddly, they didn't. I heard them making noise in the living room, walking around, huffing and puffing. Then they started walking back and forth by my bedroom repeatedly, into the bathroom, back out, over and over. At the time, I was 100% sure they were messing with me for some reason. They definitely knew I was there, whoever they were. I could constantly hear the person making noises. By this, and by the huge figure that was walking back and forth, I knew that it was a man. They continued to walk around each room except the one I was in. Suddenly, I heard them walk back through the house to the back sliding door, open it, and then promptly leave. I laid there in bed, terrified and wondering what the hell just happened. After a while, out of sheer exhaustion, I finally fell asleep. In the morning, I found that my dad and brother were home. I asked them both dozens of times, and they both promised it was not them. Plus, again, why the hell would they go through the back door and then leave again through the same door? This whole event happened 21 years ago. I'll probably never know who it was or why they were there. Nothing was missing either after the whole event. What really makes me wonder to this day is why the hell they never came into my bedroom. The door was wide open, and they must have walked by it at least 20 times. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. I got a big update for you guys today. It seems like the Teespring store is finally online, so if everything's going well, you should probably be able to see all of the new merchandise on the merchandise shelf below the video. I got some mugs, I got some phone cases, and I got some t-shirts for y'all with the designs on them. All of the shirt designs are under one thing, so if you click on the sweatshirts, it should take you to a page where you can order a different variety of different kinds of shirts. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. Let me know what you guys think, if it looks good, the pricing, everything. So look forward to that. As always, if you guys liked the video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you have a story that you'd like me to read, or you have a story that you'd like to send in yourself, please be sure to check the description of the video below, as it contains all of the links to my social media, including my Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, and Twitch accounts. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the tagline what the name of the story is, how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in, and what type of story it is, if it does have a type. Also, if you decide to send in a story, please be sure to properly format it into separate paragraphs. Thank you guys very much for that. If you guys are curious about the music used at all in this video, it's all listed in the description below, in the order of which it appears in, with links to all of the artists as well. So if you enjoy their work, please be sure to check it out and support them. Speaking of artists, as always, my friend Alan is doing the thumbnails for the videos now, so I have links to all of his art pages in the description as well. So if you like his art and you appreciate it a lot, please be sure to check out his pages and go support him, because he does some really great stuff. I think that's all for today, guys, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.